The soft glow of luminous twilight filtered through the transparent wall of Ilara's room, casting shifting patterns across the woven algae silk sheets of her bed. Outside, the world pulsed with a gentle rhythmic luminescence, a symphony of bioelectric light that was the planet's natural heartbeat. Ilara, only 8 cycles old, had lived on Lumina since she was a babe, and its quiet magic was as familiar to her as the sound of her own breathing. She wasn't asleep yet. Her small fingers traced the cool surface of the wall, following the slow drift of a luminescent cloud of nebulae moths outside, their wings shimmering with captured starlight. They were harmless, ephemeral creatures, drawn to the gentle warmth of the habitat domes. Ilara, a soft, synthesized voice murmured from the comm band on her wrist. It is past your designated sleep cycle by 17 minutes. Your neural patterns indicate heightened alpha wave activity. Ilara giggled, a tiny breathy sound that barely disturbed the quiet hum of the environmental regulators. I know, Aura, but look, they're dancing tonight. Aura, her personal AI companion, processed the observation. The nebulae moth's flight patterns are influenced by atmospheric pressure gradients and localized energy fields. There is no dancing as a conscious act. You always say that. Ilara sighed, not unkindly. But doesn't it feel like dancing? She pressed her face closer to the transparent wall, feeling the faint warmth radiating from the habitat's energy shield. Beyond the dome, Lumina stretched out, a canvas of deep indigo and emerald, dotted with the glowing forms of ancient flora and the distant, shimmering outline of the Great Obsidian Range. And at the heart of that range, something else. Something that pulsed with a light unlike any other. The silent spire, Aura's voice stated, sensing Ilara's focus. Designated Structure Alpha 7 by the initial survey teams. Its composition is primarily crystallized silicates, fused with unknown trace elements. Height, 3,450 meters. Age, undetermined. Origin, undetermined. Energy signature, minimal. Sporadic, non-harmful. Ilara nodded, though Aura couldn't see her. She knew all the official data by heart. She'd spent hours poring over the colony's public archives, zooming in on every satellite image, every geological scan of the spire. But the data never captured it. Never captured the feeling it gave her. It feels like it's waiting, Ilara whispered, her breath fogging a small patch on the wall. Waiting is an anthropomorphic concept, Ilara, Aura replied. Ever the logical guide. An inanimate object cannot possess intent or anticipation. But what if it's not inanimate? Ilara argued gently. What if it's just sleeping? Aura paused. A micro-pause, barely perceptible, but Ilara knew it meant Aura was accessing something deeper, perhaps even self-reflecting. The current scientific consensus does not support the hypothesis of sentient geological formations. Maybe the scientists just haven't looked hard enough, Ilara murmured. She knew her mother, Dr. Eris Thorne, a xenobotanist, had found life in places no one thought possible. Microorganisms that thrived in Lumina's supercooled methane lakes, fungi that communicated through light pulses. Her father, engineer Cale Thorne, was equally brilliant, designing the complex energy grids that kept their colony, haven, powered and safe. They were wonderful parents, kind and loving, but they saw the world through the lens of data and verifiable facts. Ilara saw it through a lens of wonder. The silent spire was different from anything else on Lumina. Most of the planet's natural structures were organic, flowing, shaped by millennia of gentle winds and slow geological shifts. But the spire was sharp, impossibly straight, and seemed to pierce the sky with an almost deliberate precision. And tonight, it glowed with a faint, steady sapphire light, a beacon in the vast, dark wilderness. It wasn't just reflecting the nebulae moth's light, it was emitting its own. Aura, show me the spire's light patterns over the last cycle, Ilara requested. Immediately, a holographic projection shimmered into existence beside her bed. It showed a time-lapse of the spire, its sapphire glow ebbing and flowing, sometimes stronger, sometimes barely visible. Tonight's luminescence was brighter than average. Correlation data suggests a slight increase in atmospheric ionization around structure Alpha 7 during periods of heightened luminosity, Aura reported. However, no direct causal link has been established. Ilara watched the flickering hologram, her brow furrowed in concentration. What if it's you talking? Aura's soft chuckle was a purely synthesized sound, programmed to convey gentle amusement. To whom would it be speaking, Elara? And in what language? To Lumina, Elara declared, feeling a warmth spread through her chest. Or to something else. Something we haven't found yet. She knew it sounded childish. She knew her parents would smile and tell her she had a wonderful imagination. But to Elara, it felt profoundly true. The spire wasn't just a rock formation. It was the spire. And it held a secret. With a final wistful glance at the real spire, a distant needle of blue light against the black, Elara reluctantly pulled herself away from the wall. All right, Aura. Initiate sleep protocol. But keep monitoring the spire. If anything changes, even a tiny flicker, wake me. Monitoring will continue regardless, Elara, Aura replied. However, waking you prematurely from your sleep cycle is not optimal for cognitive development. Just note it then, Elara conceded with a sigh, knowing Aura adhered strictly to her program directives for her well-being. She slipped under the algae silk covers, the fabric cool against her skin. The holographic projection of the spire faded, replaced by the gentle swirl of ambient light that facilitated restful sleep. But even as her eyelids grew heavy, Elara's mind was still on that distant sapphire glow, on the unspoken promise of its silence. The next morning, Lumina was bathed in the soft, diffused light of its binary suns, Sol and Solstice. A pale golden glow from Sol, mixed with the faint, violet-pink hue of Solstice, created a perpetually twilight atmosphere that was unique to their world. Elara, energized by a nutrient-paced breakfast and a quick check of her learning modules, was eager to get outside. Her parents were already in their combined lab workshop, a space fragrant with the earthy scent of Lumina's exotic fungi and the metallic tang of new circuit boards. Dr. Eris Thorne, Elara's mother, was hunched over a microscope, her dark hair pulled back in a neat bun, eyes alight with focus. Engineer Cale Thorne, her father, was deep in conversation with a holographic schematic of Haven's primary energy conduits, his fingers dancing across a control panel. "Morning, Mom, Dad," Elara chirped, bouncing into the lab. Iris looked up, her smile warm. "Good morning, Star Petal. Sleep well?" "I dreamed about the spire," Elara said, moving closer to her mother's station. It was glowing really bright, and there were little lights swirling around it like fireflies. Iris chuckled, adjusting the focus on her microscope. "Sounds like a wonderful dream, sweetie. Perhaps the atmospheric ionization was particularly strong last night." She gestured to a petri dish. "Look here, Elara. I've isolated a new species of bioluminescent mycobacterium. Its light pulses are significantly more complex than anything we've cataloged so far." Elara peered into the dish. Tiny, intricate patterns of green and gold light flickered within the clear gel. It was beautiful, but it wasn't quite a spire. "Dad, did you see the spire last night?" Elara asked, turning to her father. Cale detached himself from the schematic, a gentle smile on his face. The old spire. Always a mystery, isn't it? No, not specifically, Elara. I was running diagnostics on the geothermal conduits in Sector Delta 9. Why? Was it putting on a show? It was so bright, Elara insisted. Brighter than usual. Aura even noted it. Aura noted a slight increase in luminosity and correlating atmospheric ionization. Aura interjected from her wristband. Ever precise. Within expected, albeit upper quartile, parameters. Cale ruffled Elara's hair. There you have it. Probably just a particularly active solar flare from Solstice interacting with Lumina's ionosphere. Happens sometimes. Nothing to worry about. Elara sighed. It was always atmospheric ionization or solar flares or geological shifts. Never anything more. She loved her parents, admired their work, but sometimes she wished they'd look beyond the scientific explanation, just for a moment, and killing the wonder. "I want to go for a float today," Elara announced, changing the subject. "Can I go to the Whispering Dunes?" "The Whispering Dunes are within the green zone," Iris confirmed. "Just remember your perimeter limits, and don't stray too far from the marked paths, and take your comlink, fully charged." Always, Elara promised. The green zone was the designated safe area around Haven, regularly patrolled by autonomous drones and monitored for any anomalous activity. Beyond it lay the yellow zone, for supervised expeditions, and the vast, largely unexplored red zone, which included the Great Obsidian Range and, of course, the Silent Spire. Elara donned her exploration suit, a lightweight, form-fitting garment designed for Lumina's atmosphere, complete with integrated climate control and a small personal thruster pack. She clipped her emergency beacon to her belt and checked her comm band. "Aura, full system check," she instructed. "All systems nominal." "Elara," Aura confirmed. "Thruster pack at 100% charge. Environmental seal secure. Communications array functioning. GPS calibrated." "Great." Elara grinned, a thrill of anticipation running through her. She waved goodbye to her parents, who offered their usual gentle warnings, and exited the habitat through a pressurized airlock. The outside air, cool and carrying the faint, earthy scent of Lumana's alien soil, greeted her. The ground beneath her boots was soft and springy, covered in a carpet of low-lying bioluminescent mosses that pulsed with a gentle green light. Elara activated her thruster pack, feeling the familiar hum as it lifted her effortlessly into the air. The thruster pack wasn't designed for high-altitude flight, but it allowed her to glide comfortably a few meters above the ground, making exploration much easier than walking. She soared over fields of crystalline flora that chimed softly in the breeze, past clusters of sun petals that slowly opened and closed, absorbing the binary sunlight. Her destination, the Whispering Dunes, was a vast expanse of fine silicate sand that glowed faintly at night and shifted in response to subtle atmospheric currents, creating soft, whispering sounds. It was a place of serene beauty, far enough from Haven to feel like an adventure, but close enough to be safe. As she drifted, Elara noticed something unusual. A faint, almost imperceptible tremor ran through the air, causing the crystalline flora to vibrate with a slightly different resonance. It wasn't strong enough to be an earthquake, nor was it a weather phenomenon. It felt deeper. "Aura, detect any seismic activity?" Elara asked, hovering in place. "Negative, Elara," Aura responded. "All sensors indicate geological stability. Atmospheric conditions are within expected parameters?" Elara frowned. Her senses told her otherwise. She closed her eyes for a moment, letting the subtle vibrations hum through her suit, through her very bones. It was a rhythm, she realized. A slow, deep pulse. And it was coming from the direction of the Silent Spire. Her heart began to beat a little faster. This wasn't a solar flare or atmospheric ionization. This was something new. Something that felt like a direct communication from Lumina itself. Elara knew the rules. She knew the perimeter. But the pull of the unknown, the tantalizing hint of a secret, was too strong to resist. She adjusted her flight path, veering slightly off the designated route, towards the faint, distant outline of the Obsidian Range. "Elara, you are deviating from your planned trajectory," Aura noted, her tone even. "You are approaching the boundary of the green zone." "Just a little closer, Aura," Elara murmured, her eyes fixed on the distant peaks. "I just want to see if the tremor is stronger there. For science," she added, hoping to appeal to Aura's logical core. Aura processed this. Collecting anomalous data could be considered a valid scientific endeavor. However, exceeding green zone parameters without parental consent is a breach of protocol and could expose you to unforeseen risks. "I'll be careful," Elara promised, pushing a little more power into her thrusters. She flew faster now, the ground rushing past beneath her. The Whispering Dunes gave way to rolling hills covered in dense bioluminescent ferns that pulsed with soft, synchronized light, like a vast living carpet. The tremor grew more pronounced here, a subtle thrumming in the air that resonated in her chest. It was like a very slow, very deep drum beat. And with each beat, Elara felt a peculiar sensation, like a whisper against her mind, a faint echo of something ancient and vast. Suddenly, a flicker of movement caught her eye. Below, nestled amidst a cluster of glowing rock spires, was something small and metallic. It glinted under the binary suns, unlike anything natural on Lumina. Elara descended slowly, landing softly on the springy fern moss. The tremor was strongest here, making the ground vibrate beneath her boots. She carefully approached the object. It was a small elongated device, no larger than her palm, crafted from a dull silvery metal that seemed to absorb light rather than reflect it. One end was smooth and tapered, the other had a series of intricate, almost organic-looking carvings. There was no visible seam, no discernible power source, no markings she recognized. It hummed faintly, echoing the deeper tremor in the air. "Aura! Scan this," Elara whispered, extending a gloved hand towards it. Aura's sensors whirred. Unidentified object, Elara. Composition data incomplete. Energy signature, low level, fluctuating, unique. It appears to be emitting a localized sonic pulse, consistent with the tremor you detected. Elara carefully picked it up. It was surprisingly light, cool to the touch, and vibrated gently in her hand. The intricate carvings seemed to shift and flow as she turned it, almost like liquid metal. "It's beautiful," she breathed, her wonder overriding any sense of caution. "What do you think it is?" "Insufficient data to formulate a hypothesis, Elara," Aura replied. "However, I advise caution. We have no record of any such artifact from previous survey missions or colony installations." Elara held the object close, feeling its gentle hum resonate with the tremor in the ground. It was like a tiny, personal piece of the Silent Spire's mystery, here in her hand. This wasn't just a rock, or a plant, or a weather phenomenon. This was a thing. A thing that clearly wasn't from Haven. She looked up, towards the distant, sapphire glow of the Silent Spire. It seemed to pulse now, in sync with the object in her hand, as if calling to her. The boundary of the green zone was still a safe distance behind her, but the yellow zone beckoned. And beyond it, the red zone, where the Silent Spire stood sentinel. A new determination settled in Elara's heart. Her parents might have their scientific explanations, but this object, this thing, was proof. Proof that Lumina held secrets far deeper than anyone in Haven had yet realized. And she, Elara, was going to be the one to uncover them. She carefully secured the object in a small padded compartment in her suit. "Let's go, Aura," she said, her voice firm. "Let's go home. We have work to do." As she ascended, the Silent Spire seemed to shine a little brighter, a silent promise in the distance. The tremor in the ground faded as she gained altitude, but the small humming object in her suit remained, a tangible link to the mystery she was now determined to unravel. Back in her room, the binary sun setting outside in a breathtaking swirl of violet and gold, Elara carefully placed the object on her small desk. It continued its faint hum, its intricate carvings seeming to ripple in the ambient light. "Aura, can you run a more detailed analysis of this object?" Elara asked, her voice low, almost conspiratorial. She didn't want her parents to know about her discovery just yet. They would worry, would tell her to turn it over to the research division, would subject it to tests and scans that might, she feared, strip away its magic. "My internal scanners are limited, Elara," Aura replied. "A more comprehensive analysis would require specialized laboratory equipment, such as the spectrographic analyzers in your mother's lab, or the material composition arrays in your father's workshop." Elara sighed. "I know. But, can you at least try to cross-reference its energy signature with anything in the colony's database? Any ancient readings, any anomalies, anything at all?" Aura processed the request. The comm band on Elara's wrist glowed faintly as the AI accessed vast repositories of data. Moments stretched into minutes. Elara watched the object, mesmerized by its quiet hum. It felt warm now, a comforting warmth that seeped into her fingertips when she touched it. "Query complete, Elara," Aura finally announced. "Cross-reference results. Negative. There are no known records within the Haven colony's databases that match the energy signature, material composition, or structural design of this object. Nothing at all." Elara felt a surge of both excitement and a strange sense of isolation. This truly was something new. Something alien. "Affirmative. No matches. However, I have detected a faint, intermittent signal emanating from the object. It is exceptionally low frequency, almost imperceptible. My processing core is attempting to decode it. Elara leaned closer to the object, her ear almost touching its surface. A signal? What kind of signal? Undetermined, Aura replied. It is not a data packet, nor a conventional radio wave. It appears to be a pattern of harmonic resonance, a series of vibrational frequencies. It is complex. Can you amplify it? Elara asked, her eyes wide. I can attempt to translate the vibrational pattern into an auditory format, Aura stated. However, the fidelity may be compromised. Please try, Elara urged. A moment later, a sound filled Elara's room. It wasn't loud, but it was unlike anything she had ever heard. It was a deep, resonant hum, layered with subtle, shifting frequencies, like distant whale song filtered through starlight. It was mournful, beautiful, and utterly ancient. It spoke of vast distances, of immense time. It was the sound of Lumina itself, condensed into this small silvery object. Elara felt a chill run down her spine, but it wasn't a chill of fear. It was a shiver of profound wonder. This wasn't just a signal, it felt like a voice. The voice of Vaithe. What is it saying, Aura? Elara whispered, captivated by the sound. It is not a linguistic pattern I can recognize, Elara, Aura explained, her synthesized voice almost hushed. It is a sequence of highly ordered repeating mathematical primes, interwoven with complex fractal geometries. It is a form of pure information, a language of numbers perhaps. Elara listened, lost in the intricate beauty of the sound. It pulsed, rose and fell, creating a tapestry of sound that seemed to speak directly to her heart, bypassing her ears. It was a lullaby from a distant star, a secret whispered across the cosmos. And then, just as suddenly, the sound faded, the object's hum, returning to its previous, almost silent vibration. The signal has ceased, Aura reported. Perhaps it was a burst transmission, or a localized energy depletion. Elara gently picked up the object again. It was still warm, still vibrant. She looked out her transparent wall, at the distant, silent glow of the spire. A thought, clear and bright, bloomed in her mind. The object in her hand wasn't just a device. It was a key to understanding the spire, a key to understanding Lumina. And she knew, with absolute certainty, that her journey had only just begun. The silence of the spire was not an emptiness, but a profound quiet, waiting to be understood. And she, Elara, was ready to listen. She carefully placed the object back on her desk, resolving to protect its secret. This was a horrid discovery, her connection to Lumina's heart. And she would follow its whispers, no matter where they led. She felt a peaceful determination settle within her, a quiet resolve that promised many adventures to come. As the binary suns finally dipped below the horizon, painting the sky in ever-deepening shades of violet and indigo, Elara lay in her bed, the soft hum of the artifact, a gentle counterpoint to her own steady heartbeat, dreaming of the silent spire and the secrets it held. Her little adventure, far from being over, was just unfolding. Her little adventure, far from being over, was just unfolding. The binary suns had barely begun their ascent, painting the sleeping world in soft mauves and pale oranges when Elara's eyes fluttered open. The artifact, nestled beside her pillow, vibrated with a gentle, insistent energy, its whispers now clearer than ever, a silent urging in her mind. Ego.t. Find. Wonders. She slipped from her bed, the synth silk sheets rustling softly. Her room, usually a haven of childish clutter, suddenly felt too small, too ordinary. She glanced at the data slate on her bedside table, its screen dark. Later, she thought. For now, the whispers were all the data she needed. Downstairs, the aroma of nutrient paste and her father's brewed krill leaf tea filled the air. Her parents were already up, their morning routine a familiar symphony of clicks and hums from the automated kitchen. "Sleep well, little star?" her mother Lyra asked, her voice a warm balm. Lyra was an astrophysicist, her mind often lost in the deep stellar nurseries beyond their system. Her father, Kale, an exobotanist, was already tending to his hydroponic garden, a small patch of vibrant alien flora in their living space. "Very well," Elara replied, trying to keep her voice even. She clutched the artifact, hidden in her hand, feeling its subtle pulse against her palm. Dreaming of new worlds, Kale murmured, not looking up from a particularly fussy bioluminescent creeper. Something like that, Alara said, a small smile playing on her lips. She wanted to tell them, to share the wonder and the mystery, but the whispers had a solitary quality, a secret meant only for her. And she knew, with a child's clear-sighted intuition, that her pragmatic parents would see only a curious rock, not a key to an ancient secret. They would worry, caution, perhaps even forbid. This was her journey. During breakfast, Alara subtly navigated the neural net, searching for any public records or historical mentions of a silent spire. Her searches yielded nothing but ancient, fragmented folktales, vague myths of a skyfinger or star-toucher that predated even the first colonial landings. Her parents, when she casually brought it up, chuckled. "The silent spire? That's an old one, Alara," Kale said, wiping his mouth. "Just a geological formation, probably. Erosion can do strange things over millennia." Lyra nodded. "Or a forgotten beacon from early, speculative exploration, quickly abandoned. Nothing of true scientific interest, my dear. If it were, it would be thoroughly documented." Alara nodded, pretending to accept their explanations, but the artifact's hum only grew stronger, a silent rebuttal to their logic. It wasn't a geological formation, and it certainly wasn't abandoned. It was waiting. Oh. The day passed in a blur of anticipation. Alara went through the motions of her homeschool lessons, her mind constantly drifting to the spire. She spent hours in her room, mapping out the general direction the whispers pointed, cross-referencing it with topographical scans of their continent. It seemed to lie in the vast uninhabited desert known as the Shifting Sands, a region rarely traversed due to its unpredictable weather patterns and volatile energy pockets. It was a journey of days, perhaps even a week, on foot. Too long. Her gaze fell upon her father's personal utility drawn skiff, usually parked in the garage adjacent to their living quarters. It was a rugged, single-person vehicle, designed for surveying remote botanical samples or geological anomalies. It had limited range, but with careful planning and power conservation, it might just make the trip. It also had a basic navigation system, a compact survival kit, and a comms unit, though she hoped she wouldn't need the last. That evening, under the cloak of the deepening indigo sky, Alara made her preparations. She packed a small bag, high-concentrate nutrient bars, a water purifier, a solar recharger for her data slate, a thermal blanket, and her father's multi-tool, a marvel of miniaturized engineering. And, of course, the artifact. She left a note, simple and intentionally vague, exploring, "Back soon, don't worry." She knew they would worry anyway, but she couldn't bring herself to lie completely. This was too important. As the second sun, smaller and a deeper crimson, began to dip below the horizon, casting long, distorted shadows, Alara slipped into the garage. The drone skiff, a sleek utilitarian vessel of charcoal gray, sat dormant Tycho. Its anti-grav repulsors whirred to life with a soft hiss as she initiated the sequence. The engine hummed, a low, comforting thrum. She settled into the pilot's seat, her small frame dwarfed by the controls, but her heart was full of a boundless determination. She plugged in her data slate, manually inputting the approximate coordinates the artifact had been silently guiding her towards. The destination blinked on the console. Uncharted territory, high risk in. Alara took a deep breath. She was ready. With a final silent farewell to her sleeping home, she engaged the stealth drive, the skiff rising almost imperceptibly into the night sky. The hum of its repulsors faded into the ambient sounds of the desert night as she ascended, a tiny speck against the vast star-dusted canvas. The journey was unlike anything Alara had ever experienced. The drone skiff sliced through the air, its silent momentum carrying her further and further from the familiar comfort of her home. Below, the landscape transformed. The soft, cultivated fields around her settlement gave way to rolling dunes of crimson sand, shimmering under the distant, cold light of the galaxy. Strange skeletal flora, adapted to the arid environment, cast long, eerie shadows. The air grew thinner, crisper, carrying the scent of mineral dust and something wild, ancient. The artifact, now placed securely in a small compartment on the skiff's console, pulsed rhythmically, its whispers a constant, comforting presence. It wasn't just guiding her. It felt like it was communicating with the environment, subtly adjusting the skiff's trajectory, bypassing invisible energy eddies that might have otherwise disrupted her flight. Elara found herself trusting its guidance implicitly, letting go of the need for precise navigation, allowing the artifact to be her compass. Days blurred into a cycle of travel, brief rest stops to recharge the skiff's solar cells, and the silent awe of discovery. She saw creatures she'd only read about in holobooks. Immense, armored sandworms that burrowed through the dunes, their movements creating seismic ripples across the landscape. Iridescent sky mantas that drifted on thermal currents, their bioluminescent patterns a mesmerizing ballet against the twilight sky. Each encounter filled her with a profound sense of wonder and humility. The universe was so much bigger, so much stranger than she had ever imagined from her quiet settlement. One afternoon, a localized magnetic storm erupted without warning. The sky turned a sickly green, crackling with static electricity. The skiff's systems flickered erratically, warning lights flashing. Elara gripped the controls, her heart pounding. The winds howled, threatening to rip the small vessel from the sky. Just as panic began to set in, the artifact pulsed violently, its hum rising to an almost painful pitch. A surge of energy flowed from it, integrating with the skiff's failing systems. The magnetic field around the skiff stabilized, a protective bubble forming, deflecting the worst of the storm's fury. Elara watched, wide-eyed, as the skiff, guided by the artifact's silent will, sliced through the eye of the storm, emerging into clear skies just moments later. She was breathless, exhilarated. This wasn't just a guide, it was a protector. As the days turned into a week, the landscape began to change again. The crimson dunes gave way to a vast obsidian plain, jagged and scarred, as if a colossal celestial body had once gouged the planet's surface. The air here was heavy, charged with an inexplicable energy that made the hairs on Elara's arms stand on end. The whispers from the artifact grew in intensity, almost a palpable vibration in her chest, urging her onward, faster. Then, she saw it. In the distance, piercing the obsidian horizon, stood a structure that defied description. It wasn't merely tall. It was impossibly so, a needle-thin silhouette against the twin suns. It wasn't built of stone or metal, but of a material that seemed to drink the light, shimmering with an inner luminescence that shifted between deep violet and obsidian black. It was seamless, utterly devoid of visible joins or imperfections, spiraling upwards into the heavens, until its apex was lost in the perpetual twilight of their planet's upper atmosphere. This was not a spire. It was a monument, a challenge, a promise. The silent spire. Elara brought the skiff down a safe distance away, landing gently on the glassy black plain. The air was utterly still, silent, save for the thrumming of the artifact. No wind, no distant animal calls. Just the profound quiet of something ancient and utterly alien. She disembarked, her legs a little shaky, her gaze fixed on the colossal structure. Up close, its scale was even more overwhelming. It seemed to vibrate with a suppressed power, a dormant giant waiting to awaken. She began to walk, the artifact now clutched in her hand, its hum a steady beat against her skin. The obsidian ground felt strangely warm beneath her boots. As she drew closer, she noticed intricate, almost invisible patterns etched into the spire's surface, geometric designs that seemed to shift and reconfigure as she moved, like living fractals. They weren't carved. They seemed to be part of the material itself. The whispers intensified, directing her to a specific section of the spire's base. There was no visible entrance, no door, no archway. Just the same, seamless, shimmering surface. Elara hesitated, her heart pounding a frantic rhythm. This was it. The culmination of her journey. Guided by an insistent pull, she lifted the artifact. As it neared the spire's surface, a brilliant cerulean light erupted from its core, casting stark shadows across the obsidian plain. The light pulsed, mirroring the artifact's internal rhythm, and then, with a soft, almost inaudible hum, the intricate patterns on the spire's surface began to ripple outwards from the point where the artifact's light touched. The shimmering material flowed like liquid, parting to reveal a dark, inviting archway. The air stirred, drawing her in. Fear, cold and sharp, pricked at her. This was no longer a game, no longer a dream. This was real. But the wonder, the insatiable curiosity, swiftly eclipsed it. This was what the whispers had promised. She took a deep breath, adjusted her bag, and stepped through the shimmering threshold. The interior of the spire was vast and silent, a cavernous space that stretched upwards beyond the reach of her vision. The air was cool, carrying a faint, metallic scent she couldn't place. There were no lights, yet the space wasn't truly dark. A soft, ambient luminescence emanated from the walls themselves. A deep, pervasive indigo that gave the entire chamber an ethereal glow. The floor was as smooth and seamless as the exterior, sloping gently downwards into the spire's heart. As Alara walked, her footsteps made no sound. The artifact in her hand pulsed with a gentle, steady light, casting small, dancing shadows. The whispers were now a clear, resonant hum within her mind, guiding her deeper into the structure. She passed by massive, impossibly smooth columns that seemed to grow organically from the floor, reaching for the unseen ceiling. They were not decorative. They felt functional, like the sinews of a colossal, dormant machine. After what felt like an eternity, the gentle slope leveled out into a vast circular chamber. In its center stood a colossal, crystalline structure, glowing with an inner light that pulsed in sync with the artifact in her hand. It was a magnificent thing, like a gigantic, perfectly cut gem, intricately faceted, yet entirely smooth to the touch. It seemed to draw the indigo light from the walls, concentrating it, then releasing it in shimmering waves. As Alara approached the crystalline structure, the artifact's hum reached a crescendo, and then, with a soft click, it separated. The outer shell of the artifact, the smooth, dark rock she had found, fell away, revealing an inner core of pure, shimmering light. This core, no bigger than her thumb, floated gently from her palm, drawn as if by an invisible thread towards the crystalline structure. It merged seamlessly with the crystal, dissolving into its radiant depths. The moment the core integrated, the chamber around her roared to life. The indigo luminescence intensified, blossoming into a vibrant spectrum of colors that danced across the walls and floor. The colossal columns pulsed with energy, and from the floor, holographic projections flickered into existence. They were not static images but fluid, moving displays of information. Star charts, complex and incredibly detailed, spun around her, depicting galaxies unknown, nebulae vibrant with nascent stars, and ancient forgotten pathways through the void. Some showed intricate biological structures, alien forms of life she couldn't comprehend, their cellular patterns shifting and evolving. Others displayed architectural designs, blueprints for cities that floated in atmospheres or burrowed into planetary cores. It was a library, a repository of unimaginable knowledge, projected directly into her perception. The whispers in her mind were no longer just guidance. They were images, sensations, fragments of language she instinctively understood. She saw glimpses of beings unlike any she knew, their thoughts and experiences washing over her, a river of ancient consciousness. They were the architects of this place, the keepers of this knowledge, a civilization long vanished, leaving behind the silent testament to their existence. One particular projection stabilized before her, forming a complete, coherent narrative. It depicted a species, tall and elegant, with skin that shimmered like starlight and eyes that held the wisdom of countless millennia, eyed. They were the Whisperers, as she now instinctively knew them, a nomadic people who traveled the cosmos, not colonizing, but cataloging. They built these spires on countless worlds, not as homes, but as beacons, as archives, as seeds of knowledge for future civilizations. Their purpose was to observe, to record, and to share. This spire, she realized, was a beacon. It had been dormant for eons, waiting for a compatible mind, a curious spirit, to activate it. The artifact she found was not just a key. It was a fragment of their consciousness, an echo of their intent, meant to draw the worthy. The central crystalline structure, now fully activated, pulsed with a steady, powerful rhythm. The whispers in her mind became a clear, melodic voice, a chorus of ancient beings. "Welcome, child of the stars. You have found us. You have awakened the song. Oi Tainan." The projections shifted again, focusing on a single vast star map. A tiny glowing dot represented her home system. From it, lines of light extended outwards, connecting to other glowing dots across the galaxy. Each dot, she understood, was another spire, another archive, another seed of knowledge, waiting to be awakened. And at the center of this galactic network, a single, brilliant nexus pulsed with unimaginable power. The whispers continued, no longer just a welcoming chorus, but an invitation. The journey has just begun, Elara. The knowledge is vast, the cosmos awaits. Will you listen to the song? Will you follow the paths we laid? Nay. Elara stood in the heart of the activated spire, surrounded by the swirling echoes of a vanished civilization, a universe of knowledge unfolding before her. The weight of the invitation settled upon her, profound and exhilarating. Her little adventure, far from being over, had just become immeasurably grander, hinting at a destiny far beyond the wildest dreams of a girl from a quiet binary system. The silent spire was anything but silent now. It sang a symphony of the stars, and Elara, a tiny conductor, felt the first stirrings of a cosmic melody within her own heart. The cosmic melody resonated, a silent hum that vibrated through the very core of Elara's being, making her feel both impossibly small and infinitely grand. The spire, once a silent enigma, now pulsed with a soft internal light, a gentle ebb and flow that mirrored the rhythm of her own excited breath. Intricate patterns, previously invisible, shimmered across its obsidian surface, like constellations brought to life, each star a tiny flickering beacon of information. She reached out, her fingers trembling slightly, and touched the cool, smooth stone. A jolt, not of electricity, but of pure distilled understanding, flowed into her. The invitation wasn't merely a message, it was a connection. A direct link to the vast, dormant intelligence that had built this marvel. It wasn't asking her to go somewhere specific yet, but rather to prepare, to open her mind, to learn, to grow. The spire wasn't just a conduit. It was a teacher. As her fingers lingered, the air around her thickened, not unpleasantly, but with a palpable sense of energy. The star charts projected onto the cavern walls swirled and reformed, no longer static images but dynamic simulations. She saw star systems she'd only ever dreamed of, nebulae painted in hues unknown to her binary suns, and pathways, shimmering lines of light, connecting distant points across the galactic arm. This wasn't just a map. It was a curriculum. Days bled into nights within the cavern, though Elara barely noticed the passage of time. Her hover scooter, now parked discreetly behind a cluster of phosphorescent fungi, seemed a relic of another life. The spire became her world. It taught her, not through words but through direct intuitive transmission. Complex physics, astrogation, xenolinguistics, the history of a civilization whose name she still didn't know but whose legacy now coursed through her veins. It all poured into her mind, not as dry facts, but as vibrant, living concepts. She learned of Chronos gates, ancient transportation networks that folded space and time, allowing instantaneous travel across unimaginable distances. She learned of etheric weavers, beings who could manipulate energy fields to construct or deconstruct matter. Most profoundly, she learned of the custodians, the very civilization who had built the spire and extended this invitation. They were guardians, preservers of knowledge, architects of peace, who had vanished not through catastrophe, but through a deliberate grand ascension, leaving behind these spires as beacons, waiting for those who were ready to carry their torch. Elara absorbed it all, her young mind a sponge, her spirit alight. Yet, beneath the wonder, a subtle tremor of apprehension began to stir. Her parents, her home, her quiet, predictable life. How could she reconcile this cosmic destiny with the simple reality of her existence? The spire, sensing her internal conflict, gently projected an image. Her parents, laughing, illuminated by the warm glow of their hearthlight. A pang of longing, sharp and sweet, pierced her. She missed them. She missed the familiar comfort of her bunk, the scent of her mother's synth bread, the sound of her father's gentle snoring. The spire didn't offer an answer to Yaetat's dilemma. It simply presented the choice, stark and profound. Stay, and let this knowledge remain a beautiful, secret dream. Or embrace the invitation, step onto a path that would lead her far, far beyond the reach of her binary suns, into a universe she was only just beginning to comprehend. It was a choice she knew she couldn't make lightly, nor could she make it immediately. The spire, in its infinite wisdom, seemed to understand. It began to slow the flow of information, gently guiding her towards the cavern exit. It was time to return. Time to breathe the familiar air, to see the familiar faces, and to grapple with the enormity of what had been laid before her. With a final lingering touch, Alara said goodbye to the silent spire, or rather, until next time. The return journey felt different. The hover scooter, once a thrilling chariot, now felt almost sluggish, quaint. The familiar rocky terrain, the sparse, hardy flora of their moon, seemed muted, less vibrant than the star charts burned into her memory. Yet, as she approached the small domed habitat that was her home, a wave of warmth washed over her. It was small, yes, but it was hers. It was love. She slipped back into her room as the first of the twin suns began to peek over the horizon, casting long purple shadows across the landscape. Her parents were still asleep. She changed into her sleep tunic, her movements automatic, but her mind was a tempest. How could she pretend nothing had happened? How could she sit at breakfast, chatting about her latest invention or her progress in school, when her mind was filled with Chronos gates and custodians? For weeks, Alara lived a dual existence. By day, she was the diligent daughter, the curious student, the inventive tinkerer. She helped her father calibrate his atmospheric processors, assisted her mother with the nutrient recycling, and dutifully completed her lessons from the homeschool terminal. But by night, when the binary suns dipped below the horizon and her parents were deep in slumber, she would slip away. The spire became her sanctuary, her university, her secret garden. She learned to navigate the ancient interfaces, to access specific databases within its vast memory banks. She delved deeper into the custodians' history, their philosophy of interconnectedness, their belief in a universal consciousness. She discovered that the invitation wasn't just for but for countless others across the cosmos. Individuals deemed resonant by the spires, those with open hearts and curious minds, who possessed the spark of wonder needed to carry on the custodian legacy. She wasn't alone, even if she felt utterly singular in her immediate surroundings. One evening, as she was studying a complex diagram of a stellar seed, a device capable of terraforming entire barren worlds, her mother's voice startled her. "Alara, you're still up, sweetie?" Alara froze, her heart hammering against her ribs. She was sitting in front of her personal terminal, but instead of her usual schoolwork, the screen glowed with the intricate schematics from the spire. She quickly minimized the window, her fingers fumbling. "Just finishing up a project, Mom," she said, trying to sound nonchalant. Her mother, Lyra, entered the room, her brow furrowed with gentle concern. Lyra was a woman of quiet strength, her hands often stained with nutrient paste from her work maintaining the habitat's life support systems. "You've been so quiet lately, and tired. And I've noticed your boots are often muddy when you come in after dark. Is everything all right, my little star seeker?" Lyra's eyes, warm and perceptive, searched hers. Alara swallowed. This was it. The moment of truth. She could lie, continue her clandestine visits. Or she could trust her parents, share a secret so immense it felt like it might burst from her chest. She looked at her mother's kind, worried face and knew what she had to do. The custodians believed in truth, in connection. How could she embrace their path if she couldn't be honest with the people she loved most? "Mom," she began, her voice barely a whisper. I have something incredible to tell you, something that will change everything." Lyra sat on the edge of Alara's bunk, her expression softening. "Tell me, darling. Whatever it is, we'll face it together." And so, Alara began to tell her story. She started with a binary eclipse, the strange signal, the discovery of the spire. She spoke of the shifting light, the ancient messages, the knowledge pouring into her mind. She described the Chronos gates, the etheric weavers, the custodians, and the grand invitation. Her words tumbled out, earnest and breathless, painting a picture of cosmic wonder and unimaginable possibilities. Lyra listened, her face a mixture of disbelief, awe, and a deep underlying fear. When Elara finished, the room was silent save for the soft hum of the habitat's air purifiers. A vanished civilization, Lyra finally murmured, her voice laced with wonder. An invitation to the stars. She shook her head, a small, disbelieving laugh escaping her lips. Elara, my brave, imaginative girl. It's a lot to take in. Just then, Elara's father, Kale, walked in, rubbing sleep from his eyes. Everything all right? I heard voices. Kale was a practical man, his days spent coaxing life from the harsh lunar soil, maintaining the habitat's delicate balance. He was grounded, literally and figuratively. Lyra looked at him, then back at Elara. Kale, our daughter has a story to tell you. One you won't believe. Elara recounted her tale again, this time to both of them, her resolve strengthening with each word. Kale listened intently, his initial skepticism slowly giving way to a profound curiosity as Elara described the technological marvels and the philosophical depth of the custodian legacy. He examined the schematics on her terminal screen, his engineer's mind recognizing the impossible complexity, the elegant solutions. These are not toys, Elara, he said, his voice quiet. This is beyond anything we understand. This is real. The revelation brought a whirlwind of emotions to their small habitat. Fear for her safety, pride in her unique discovery, and the profound sadness that came with the understanding that their daughter's path was now diverging dramatically from their own. They debated, they worried, they shed tears. But ultimately, they saw the light in Elara's eyes, the unquenchable fire of destiny that had been ignited within her. If this is your calling, Elara, Kale said one evening, his hand resting gently on her shoulder, then we cannot stand in your way. But promise us you will be careful. You will remember where you came from. Lyra nodded, tears glistening in her eyes. And you will write, or send messages, however they do it, out there among the stars. With her parents' blessing, a weight lifted from Elara's heart. She was no longer alone in her secret. This made the invitation even grander, for it wasn't just a hard journey, but a journey for her family, for humanity, in a way. She spent the next few days in a flurry of preparation. The spire, once again, became her guide. It showed her how to synthesize a compact, durable survival kit from ambient energy, how to translate the custodian universal language into a portable data slate. It even provided a subtle, energy-shielded cloak that could adapt to any environment, a gift for the path ahead. The final night arrived with a heavy heart and a soaring spirit. Elara hugged her parents tightly, inhaling the familiar sense of home, trying to memorize their faces, their warmth. We love you, Elara, Lyra whispered, her voice thick with emotion. Go find your stars, little one, Kale added, a proud smile breaking through his tears. With a final wave, Elara climbed onto her hover scooter, her pack secured, and began the familiar journey to the spire. This time, there was no sneaking, no fear of discovery. Her parents stood at the habitat's viewport, two small figures watching her disappear into the twilight. The cavern felt different now. Less a secret hideaway, more a launch pad. The spire pulsed with a vibrant, welcoming energy. It was time. Elara approached the central console, now fully integrated into the spire's interface. She understood the controls instinctively, a natural extension of her own will. A complex array of symbols shimmered into existence before her, a sequence of coordinates, not for a single destination, but for the first node in a vast, interconnected network. The custodians weren't sending her to a finished place but to a starting point, a new beginning. She took a deep breath, her heart thrumming with a mixture of fear and unparalleled excitement. Her finger hovered over the activation symbol. This was it. The leap. The embrace of her destiny. She pressed it. The spire hummed, a low, resonant thrum that vibrated through the very bedrock of the moon. The air crackled with energy, and the projected star charts on the cavern walls intensified, swirling into a vortex of light and color. A section of the cavern floor, previously indistinguishable, began to glow with an ethereal blue light, forming a perfect circle. The light intensified, coalescing into a shimmering, translucent curtain, a portal. It wasn't a violent tearing of space, but a gentle unfolding, like the opening of a flower. Beyond the shimmering curtain, Elara saw not empty space, but a hazy, indistinct landscape, bathed in a soft, golden light. It was utterly alien, yet somehow inviting. The spire projected a final message directly into her mind. Welcome, Resonant. The journey begins. Seek the heart of the custodians. They await. Elara stepped forward, her small frame dwarfed by the immense portal. She didn't hesitate. With a final glance back at the now empty cavern, she walked through the shimmering blue curtain. The sensation was unlike anything she had ever experienced. Not a jolt, not a rush, but an instantaneous displacement. One moment, she was on her home moon. The next, she stood on firm ground, under a sky she had never seen. The air here was sweet and cool, carrying the scent of exotic unknown blossoms. The golden light bathed everything in a gentle warmth, emanating from a sun that was a soft, pale yellow, unlike the fiery red and orange of her binary system. Towering, crystalline structures, impossibly slender and elegant, pierced the sky, reflecting the golden light in a myriad of shimmering colors. They weren't the stark, utilitarian structures of her homeworld, but organic, almost living architecture, harmonizing with the natural landscape. Beneath her feet, the ground was springy, covered in a carpet of luminous moss that glowed faintly, pulsating with a gentle rhythm. Strange bioluminescent flora dotted the landscape, casting soft, shifting lights. Overhead, not stars, but two enormous gas-giant planets hung in the sky, one a swirling tapestry of blues and greens, the other a deep, rich crimson, both so close they filled her vision, majestic and breathtaking. Elara stood still, breathing it all in, her heart swelling with a wonder so profound it brought tears to her eyes. This was the universe. This was the invitation. She was here. A soft chime echoed through the air, and Elara turned, her hand instinctively going to the survival kit on her back. A small, spherical drone, no larger than her fist, floated towards her. It was made of the same crystalline material as the towering structures, and it glowed with a gentle, inviting light. It projected a holographic image before her. A path, winding through the luminous moss, and between the crystalline spires, leading towards a larger, more intricate structure in the distance. Follow the path. Resonant, a soft melodic voice resonated directly into her mind, not the spire's voice but a new one, equally ancient and wise. The first lesson awaits. Elara took a deep breath, a smile spreading across her face. The vastness of space, the secrets of vanished civilizations, the promise of knowledge, it was all here, unfolding before her. She had stepped through the curtain, and the universe had embraced her. Her adventure had truly, magnificently, just begun. She took her first step down the glowing path, ready to learn, ready to explore, ready to become the conductor of her cosmic melody. The glowing path shimmered, a soft invitation into the heart of the ancient structure. Elara followed it, her boots making no sound on the crystalline surface. The corridor widened, curving gently, leading her into a vast, spherical chamber where light pulsed and flowed like liquid starlight. There were no visible doors, no obvious machines, just an immersive field of shifting, luminous patterns. A warmth spread through her. Not just physical, but a comforting presence that settled deep within her mind. It wasn't a voice, but a knowing. An instant understanding that this was the ancient and wise entity itself. The collective consciousness of this incredible place. It shimmered in the air, coalescing into intricate fractal designs that danced before her eyes. Welcome, Elara of Earth, resonated the knowing, soft as a cosmic whisper. Your journey begins with the first lesson. Resonance. Before she could ask, the chamber around her transformed. The flowing light coalesced, not into solid objects but into intricate, shimmering holograms of galaxies, nebulae, and swirling dust clouds. It was like standing inside a living observatory. Everything vibrates, Elara, the presence explained. Every atom, every star, every thought. To conduct the cosmic melody, you must first learn to hear its individual notes, and then its grand harmony. No. Elara closed her eyes, as instructed. The light behind her eyelids pulsed, mirroring the cosmic dance outside. She focused, trying to filter out the hum of her own suit, the beat of her own heart. Slowly, subtly, she began to feel it. Not hear, not see, but a feeling. A faint thrumming, like a distant harp string, began to assert itself. It grew, becoming more complex, revealing layers she hadn't known existed. She felt the slow, majestic pulse of a gas giant, the rapid, fiery dance of a young star, the ancient, almost imperceptible tremor of a black hole at the galaxy's heart. It was overwhelming, a cacophony and a symphony all at once. Eve Elara. The presence guided, its gentle influence, a calming hand on her racing thoughts. I do not try to contain it, only observe. Let your own resonance align with the universal flow. Oh, and wait. She took a deep breath, focusing on the calm center within herself. As she did, the chaotic vibrations began to coalesce, the individual notes finding their place in a grander structure. It was like stepping from a noisy marketplace into a grand concert hall, where every instrument played its part in a beautiful, unfolding composition. Tears pricked her eyes. It was the most profound beauty she had ever experienced. Days or perhaps weeks melted into a timeless flow within the chamber. Elara lost track of her earthly needs, sustained by the gentle energy of the place itself. She moved through lessons on eye manipulation, learning to draw strands of light from the ambient energy, shaping them into intricate patterns with her thoughts alone. She learned Gravitic weaving, understanding how gravity wasn't just a force, but a continuous, flowing current that could be gently nudged and guided. She experienced atemporal echoes, witnessing the faint imprints of past events on the very fabric of space, learning to discern the whisper of history. Each lesson built upon the last, deepening her understanding of the universe as a vast interconnected tapestry. Her hands, initially clumsy as she tried to coax a simple light orb into existence, became fluid, graceful, extensions of her will. She learned that true power wasn't about force, but about understanding and harmony. If she tried to push the energy, it resisted. If she aligned with it, it flowed effortlessly. One cycle, as the presence referred to the periods between lessons, she found herself frustrated. She was attempting a matter transmutation, a delicate dance of rearranging atomic structures. She could shift elements, but only within simple parameters, and with great effort. The crystalline structure she was trying to form kept collapsing. "It's not working," she exclaimed, her voice echoing slightly in the vast chamber. "I feel the resonance, I understand the patterns, but it just falls apart." "Patience, Elara." The presence soothed. "You seek to impose your will. The universe does not bend to will alone. It dances with intention and understanding. What is the fundamental difference between the structure you desire and the one that exists?" "I." Elara closed her eyes again, letting her mind reach out, not to manipulate, but to listen. She felt the chaotic vibrations of the unformed atoms, then the stable, elegant hum of the desired crystalline lattice. She realized she wasn't just moving atoms. She was trying to change their song. "It's the harmony," she whispered, a sudden insight blooming. "I'm trying to force them into a new harmony without teaching them the new rhythm first." "Precisely," the presence affirmed. "You must become the conductor, not the sculptor. Offer the new melody, and allow the elements to resonate with it." "Waiting." She tried again, but this time, she didn't focus on doing. She focused on being. She held the desired crystalline harmony in her mind, not as a command, but as an invitation. She hummed it, silently, with her very being. Slowly, subtly, the chaotic atoms began to shift, not forced, but drawn. They vibrated, rearranged, and then with a soft ethereal chime, a perfect, shimmering crystal, unlike any she had seen on Earth, solidified in the air before her. It was a moment of profound revelation. The cosmic melody wasn't just an abstract concept, it was the fundamental operating principle of existence. To conduct it meant to understand its inherent harmony, and to gently guide elements towards a new beautiful iteration of that harmony. She wasn't just learning skills, She was learning a new way of being in the universe. As her understanding deepened, so did her connection to the ancient place. The shimmering lights around her began to feel less like an external guide, and more like an extension of her own expanded consciousness. She perceived the network of energy that flowed through the entire structure, connecting it to the stars outside, to the very fabric of space-time. This place wasn't just a school. It was a living nexus of universal wisdom, powered by the collective insight of its long-vanished creators. They hadn't disappeared. They had ascended, their consciousness woven into this cosmic library. The final lesson arrived without fanfare. The chamber transformed one last time, revealing not a simulation, but a direct, unfiltered view into the cosmos. A nascent nebula, swirling with raw, unformed energy, hung before her. It was beautiful, but chaotic, on the brink of either collapse or creation. Yelara. The presence resonated, its voice now intertwined with the very light around her. You have learned to hear the melody, to understand its harmony, and to conduct its rhythm. Now, you must compose. She knew what was asked of her. Not to force a star into being, or to impose a rigid structure, but to facilitate the natural processes, to bring balance and gentle guidance to the swirling energies. She was to be a cosmic midwife, assisting in the birth of something new and beautiful. She closed her eyes, reaching out with her newly attuned senses. She felt the turbulent currents, the conflicting gravitational pulls, the nascent pockets of fusion struggling to ignite. It was a symphony out of tune, a chorus of discordant notes. Elara took a deep breath, letting her own being become an anchor of calm. She didn't command. She invited. She held in her mind the vision of a stable, vibrant star system, not as a fixed image, but as a potential harmony. She hummed the melody of balance, the rhythm of gentle aggregation, the quiet song of creation. She extended her hands not to push or pull, but to offer. A soft, golden light began to emanate from her, flowing outwards into the nebula. It wasn't a powerful blast, but a gentle, pervasive current, like a soothing balm. She felt the chaos begin to subside, the discordant energies slowly, subtly, aligning. The gravitational pulls found their equilibrium, drawing the dust and gas into elegant spirals. The pockets of fusion, once flickering uncertainly, now pulsed with a stronger, steadier rhythm. Hours passed, or, perhaps, a moment. Elara lost all sense of self, becoming one with the cosmic dance. She was the flow, the pull, the ignition. She was the whisper that guided the creation. Finally, with a soft internal hum that resonated through her very bones, a brilliant, young star ignited at the heart of the nebula. It wasn't a violent explosion, but a graceful, deliberate blossoming, like a cosmic flower unfurling its petals. Around it, planets began to coalesce, their orbits finding their perfect harmonious paths. The nebula, once turbulent, now glowed with a new serene beauty, a vibrant canvas of creation. Elara opened her eyes, tears of wonder streaming down her face. She had done it. She had conducted a cosmic melody, and the universe had responded with a masterpiece. The ancient presence, now a radiant, golden light embracing her, resonated with profound approval. You are ready, Elara, it whispered, its voice now a part of her own consciousness. Knowledge is within you. The universe awaits its conductor. Anin, Ashe. She stood there feeling the hum of the newly formed star system, the quiet joy of its existence. She was no longer just a scientist from Earth, nor a student of the cosmos. She was a participant, a partner in the grand, ongoing creation. The vastness of space no longer felt daunting. It felt like home, a boundless stage for her cosmic symphony. Elara took a last, lingering look at the ancient, wise sanctuary that had nurtured her transformation. She knew she could stay, becoming one with its timeless wisdom, but a deeper calling pulsed within her. Her journey was not to remain in the concert hall, but to take her music out into the universe. With a final grateful bow to the shimmering light, she turned. The glowing path reappeared, leading her back towards the shimmering curtain she had stepped through so long ago. But she wasn't the same person who had arrived. She carried the resonance of the stars, the wisdom of the ancients, and the harmony of creation within her. Stepping through the curtain, she found herself back on her small scout ship, the familiar hum of its engines a gentle welcome. The starfield outside was the same, yet, utterly transformed. She saw not just points of light, but a symphony of life, a dance of energy, a melody waiting to be heard, understood, and perhaps gently, lovingly, conducted. She smiled, a deep, contented smile. Her adventure had truly, magnificently, just begun. She was Alara, conductor of her cosmic melody, ready to explore, ready to learn, and ready to bring harmony to the infinite, whispering universe. And as she drifted off to sleep, the quiet hum of the stars outside her viewport was the most beautiful lullaby she had ever heard.